Welcome to Nico Props. I'm Chris Fry, also known as Nicodemus. So, the other week, or while I was getting things ready to actually go full time with Nico Props, I cast and made a mould for the cap that goes on the back of the rails. That part there. So, it's not bad. I should really do a zoom in, but I'm on the other side of the workshop, so I might digitally zoom this in the edit so you can have a look. But it's not a bad approximation of it. This was done using a glove mould with a fiberglass jacket on top, and we shall go into how I made that and casting of these in this video. Now, along with that as well, I also did the leg rails. These bits here. I've done 4 of them. I made a mould. I've got to be honest, the mould was pretty bad. It was a lazy mould. I did it as a dump mould of all things, which was stupid. So when I went to put a fiberglass jacket on it, the walls were all kind of floppy. But the only times that it's done anything is it's gone inwards, which is fine because I can fill that with filler and it will look absolutely fine. I use car body filler on it, it's fine. We've got a lot of flashing on here, mostly because I was using it to try and hold the mould away from the edges and keep it straight and things. So not my best work, I've got to be honest, but we can have a look at that as well. So we'll talk through it in a minute.
Okay, so in the bottom of the mold here, I've got I put some resin in to capture the details, and I'm just laying in some gel coat that's been coated in has a pigment in it. Just painting all the side walls. This mold was a bit of a pain. If you've seen my other video when things go wrong, you'll see that the walls are a little bit on the floppy side, and I had some troubles with the mold. So it's not, it's not a great mold, but yeah. So I've let the gel coat tack, and I've put on some resin so that I can actually stick the fiberglass on. As I've said in previous videos, one of the best ways of doing the fiberglass is actually to tear it and not to cut it. You end up with a much more consistent surface, and you don't end up with the lines in it that can potentially break. So yeah, so at the moment I'm kind of just soaking it in resin. I'm not worried about actually kind of getting it to stick all properly or anything like that. What I'm trying to do is get it to soak into the bonding and actually break up the bonding in the fiberglass mat, and then I can manipulate it later. So obviously I've had to make up a second batch here, and this is just polyester resin with a pigment in it. I got it from MB Fiberglass. I think it's MB or MG Fiberglass.co.uk. I'll put a link in the description probably. So yeah, that's it. And at the same time, obviously, I was working on the mold for the elbow flap, and this is the other side. There's another video for this elbow flap mold. I did a speeded up version, so but this is the underside before I did that video. I thought, well, I'll leave it in this video as a bit of a bonus. So I'm just trimming up the edges of the silicone here, taking off any of the flashing and removing the walls and things that I put on there. This was done in a glove mold technique. So basically, I take some silicone, unthicken, pour it over as a beauty coat. Oh, and look, I've just cut my finger while slicing that off. Back to the mold, and pulled it out, and then I can get rid of any scraps, put the mold back, and you can see from this picture how floppy that mold is. It's not great, and I'm using some bits of masking tape to try and hold it steady while we actually put the resin on. So just mixing up a fresh batch of just normal kind of polyurethane resin, which, as you can see, I just kind of pour into the bottom of the mold there. Just a little bit, just to kind of coat it, to pick up all those details, and then I'll back it up with the fiberglass. So I'm just currently doing one section of the jacket for the mold, again using the tear technique. It just seems to work incredibly well. You just end up with such a better result at the end of it by tearing up the mat. So here we go, onto the resin. Obviously it starts off blue and it starts to change colour as it starts to go off, so you'll get a kind of notification just by the colour change that that it's going off. So it gives you a good idea of the actual working time. You can see it started off as a bright blue, it's now turning sort of almost a browny kind of colour, and eventually it'll kind of go sort of almost a yellowy colour when it's set. Here we go, back onto the leg rail, and first off we'll do a gel coat. So this is just standard polyester resin gel coat, again mixed with a pigment. So this footage was done some time ago, and I just haven't got around to editing it, unfortunately, so I'm editing it now. So with this particular one, I don't know why, but the mold started to go proper floppy. So while I had the gel coat on, I used some tongue depressors to kind of hold the edges of the mold to the side because the tape wasn't really doing it. This allowed the gel coat to set up and kind of go a bit more rigid and hold that mold a bit more steady. So I'm going to get some wobble on that on the final part, but I can kind of feel that with Bondo, so that's not really a problem. So yeah, a bit more resin, a bit more mixing, and off we go onto that coating. So I end up doing 2 coats of fiberglass on all of these. I think this particular one, it was the black one, I don't think I mixed up the resin in the bottom very well, or I didn't leave it long enough to set before I started doing the fiberglassing. And it's got some bubbling and leaking on it when the final part came out, so I may have to redo 1 or 2 of these rails because of that. But that's not going to be too much of a problem. I totally could have just used the gel coat to you know, just to kind of finish it off. So I'm just using up the rest of the resin on the fiberglass mold there, just, you know, the last of that bits of resin, and then you know, rather than throwing away a small batch of resin at the end. So I think this this fiberglass mat is, I think it's 300 GSM that I'm using here. I do have some 450, but it's quite heavy, and you'll end up using a lot more resin to actually soak the mat, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, the roll of 450, sorry, is currently in storage, and it's a pain to get out. But I've got some sort of folded packs that I bought of this 300 gram, and yeah, it seems to work quite well. It's quite nice and light, quite strong with the resin in it. Using acetone to clean off the bits that were on my hands. I'm using latex gloves in here as well. Something I've actually changed over to Nitrile Gloves, the same types that they use in garages, the black ones. I actually find them more comfortable, I've got to be honest. It's one of those things, isn't it, is that with the latex gloves, you know, with powder or sometimes they're non-powder, but it still feels quite sweaty inside, and it doesn't feel very natural. But I feel the nitrile ones actually feel quite nice on the hands. It's almost like, you know, not quite like, you know, you're not wearing gloves, but it's close.
Okay, cool. So I did a bit of a weird molding technique in those videos where essentially I put normal resin into the bottom of the mould before I put the fiberglass in. The reason for that is, even with gel coat and things like that, I don't think it would pick up on these details, and I was worried about that. So I figured that if I poured a little bit of resin in first and then fiberglass on the top to bond it together, that would work. And it has. It's worked very, 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 very well, in fact. So I've got the detail on the top coat, and then I've got fiberglass all around the rest of it. Brilliant. Which is why you get this funny layer shift colour. So, and I did the same obviously on the cap as well. Alright, I'm not that boring. Well, maybe I am. Okay, so what have we got on Ed so far? Let's do a quick recap on everything. So we've got the toes. We don't have an insert though for the toes, and I'm thinking I'm going to use the vacuum former for that. I've got this leg, I've got all the details on the leg. I think I've got most of the bolts. The only bolts that I don't have are the ones with an angled cup, but I've got a plan to fix that in a later video. We've got the knee block, as I like to call it, and the details that go on it. These rails and the caps, as we've just discussed. I've also done the threaded rod in the middle. I did some pictures, and I think I did a video on that one as well. So, yeah, I've recently finished vacuum forming the pieces to go in there. I've got the cap for it, and we've got all the bits to go in there. So that is essentially the entire leg, with the exception of the cover for the in between the toes, done. We've actually got parts for that. Right. Now then, I've got the gun pods, I've got the guns, I've got the little details and stuff. There's one detail that I need to finish and redo because I wasn't entirely happy with it, that goes in between the guns, which is currently just a lump of MDF. I'm actually thinking I might take this back into my CNC program and my 3D program, redo it, because I did this as layers. I might actually redo it as one whole piece, and then maybe I'll use my Resin 3D printers, who knows. Right, so I've got some problems with the gubbins in here. I did some rotor casting. I used some of the wrong resin or colouring, or too much colouring or something, but they were basically soft. Not all of them, but most of them. So a little bit disappointed with that. So I'm thinking I might recast those. So we're going to do some rotor casting in an upcoming episode. Ammo boxes on the guns. We've got those. Again, same story as the part. I've got 2 of those. I need another 1, and then we've got to make all the rocket launcher assembly. That's all on this side. That's not been done yet. We've got both flaps. I've done the dome as well. So what I've got left to do, obviously the rocket launcher bit on this side, the toe bits that we've already mentioned, recasting of the elbows, but we've got the mould, so that's fine. I've got to do the pelvis. I've got to do the little black things that go in between the legs, and I've got the body to cast. So that's all going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. I'm hoping to produce at least 2 or 3 videos a week, if not more. I'm going to try and aim for more, not just on ED-209, but on other bits and pieces like workshop maintenance and you know, just things that I like to make and do. You know, I do forging of knives and things as well, so we'll have a look at that. So yeah, keep tuned for that. Now, I am making this a bit of a living, or trying to, so if you could really help me out, it would be great by sharing this video, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell to get the notifications. I'll catch you on the next episode. Cheers.